The Alan Watts method. Why your problems aren't even real. Let me ask you something that might sound crazy at first, but stay with me. What if the problems you think you have don't even exist? What if the drama, the stress, the constant rush to fix, to change, to become something is all based on a misunderstanding so deep we don't even know we're making it? You see, Alan Watts, this brilliant poetic bridge between Eastern and Western thought, once said, "The reason we suffer is not because we experience pain, but because we resist it." What if all the things we call problems, the things that drain our energy, keep us up at night, make us feel like we're not enough, are illusions? Not because they're fake in the way a movie is fake, but because they're only real within a certain frame of mind, a game we forgot we were playing. I want you to imagine this. You're walking through a dense forest. There's fog everywhere. You can't see more than a few steps ahead. You hear strange sounds, maybe even feel like you're being watched. You're afraid. But then, someone hands you a pair of infrared goggles. Suddenly, the fog disappears. You see the shapes, the paths, the animals. The fear dissolves. The forest didn't change. Your perception did. This is what Alan Watts meant when he said that most of what we call problem are simply the result of seeing life through a distorted lens. We think we're separate from the world, that life is something happening to us rather than with us. We believe we have to fight, fix, improve, and constantly struggle just to be okay. But what if I told you that this entire psychological structure, this sense of separation, is the root of unnecessary suffering?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Now let's get real about this. You might say, but I have real problems, debt, anxiety, a failing relationship, a job I hate, and I'm not here to deny that these are your experiences. But I want to challenge the foundation. Are these problems in the world, or are they problems in your mind? When you say, I'm anxious, who is the I that is anxious? Can you find it? Is it your body, your thoughts, or is it the awareness of those things? Watts often joked that we treat life like a musical performance where we're obsessed with reaching the final note. But music isn't about getting to the end, it's about the dance, the rhythm, the movement. Life, he said, is like that. And when you start to see it this way, something wild happens. The problems don't disappear, but their weight changes. You begin to see them as patterns in the play, not personal attacks. Here's where things get practical. Next time you feel overwhelmed by a problem, pause. Ask yourself, is this truly happening right now, or am I projecting fear from the past or future into this moment? You'll be shocked at how often the monster is just smoke. Let's go deeper. Imagine you're watching a movie and the main character is struggling. They're confused, lost, afraid. That's the tension that makes the story meaningful. But you, as the observer, aren't afraid. You're curious. You know it's part of a larger unfolding. What if you could live like that? What if you could be both the actor and the observer? This is the Alan Watts method. It's not about escaping life, it's about waking up to life. To see that you are not just the little ego trying to survive, you are the entire field of experience. You're the dreamer and the dream. And once you see that, the problems start to look more like waves on the surface of the ocean. Temporary, shifting, not ultimate. Here's a question for you. What do you think you need to be okay? Is it money, recognition, love? Imagine for a moment that you already had it. Feel it. then ask yourself, was it real, or did I just create it in my mind? If your mind can create peace in imagination, what's stopping it from doing it in reality? The truth is, most of our suffering comes not from the events in our lives, but from the stories we tell about them. If someone cuts us off in traffic, we don't just experience the event, we instantly create a story. They disrespected me. People are selfish. I'm always being mistreated. But what if there was no story, just the event, just the now? Alan Watts called this the wisdom of insecurity. It's the idea that the more we try to control life, the more anxious we become. But when we let go, when we surrender to the flow, we realize we were never in control to begin with, only in relationship. You can't have a wave without the ocean. You can't have a self without the world. So maybe your problems aren't problems. They're just signals, misunderstood. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just looking at life through a lens that says, I'm separate, I must fix. But the moment you realize you're already the whole thing, playing hide and seek with yourself, everything softens, the tension releases, and you laugh. Because it was never about fixing, it was about seeing. The illusion of the separate self. Why you're not who you think you are. Let's get straight to the core. The biggest lie you've ever been told, the one that shapes every fear, insecurity, and problem you think you have, is the belief that you are a separate individual, isolated from the rest of the universe. This lie is so convincing, so deeply embedded in our culture, our language, even our education systems, that we rarely pause to actually question it. But we must, because once you pierce through this illusion, the entire structure of your suffering begins to collapse. Alan Watts didn't just dabble in Eastern philosophy, he embodied it. He pulled wisdom from Zen, Taoism, and Vedanta and translated it into something so immediate, so real, that it hits you like lightning. He would say that the ego, the I you think you are, is a social convention, a useful fiction, like a character in a story. It helps us navigate the world, yes, but it's not real in the way we assume it is. The ego is a map, not the territory. And living as if the map is the territory, that's the root of our existential confusion. You see, from the moment you were born, you were told your name. You were taught that you were a you, distinct from them, distinct from it, distinct from the world. You were taught to draw a line around your body and call everything inside me and everything outside not me. But this is just a mental trick. Where do you end and the world begin, really? Is the air you breathe not part of you? What about the food you digest, the sunlight on your skin, the bacteria in your gut? You're a process, not an object, a verb, not a noun. And here's where it gets mind-blowing. All of your so-called problems hinge on this illusion of separateness. Think about it. You're anxious because you believe there's a future you who might suffer. You're angry because someone did something to you. You're jealous because someone else has something you lack. But the moment you realize that the you in your head is just a mental construct, a story being told, you can begin to step back and see the bigger picture. This doesn't mean you disappear or that you stop existing. It means you start to realize that what you really are is not the little voice in your head, but the awareness behind it, the space in which thoughts arise and dissolve. You're not the storm, you're the sky. The ego is like a cloud passing through, sometimes dramatic, sometimes soft, but never permanent. And the sky doesn't resist the clouds. It just holds them. Helen Watts would often laugh at how seriously we take ourselves, how tightly we cling to our identities. He said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. And yet that's what we do every day. We try to package ourselves into neat boxes, job titles, personalities, belief systems. But these are just costumes, roles in a play. And we've mistaken the role for the actor. So here's a radical thought. What if you stopped trying to be someone? What if you dropped the effort to be good or successful or spiritual or right and instead just rested in being? No labels, no image to uphold, just presence, just awareness. It sounds simple, but it's the most liberating thing you'll ever experience. And this isn't just theory. You can feel it. Right now, close your eyes. Let go of your name. Let go of your history. Let go of your plans. Don't try to be anything. What remains? There's a stillness, a clarity, a peace that doesn't need effort. That's you, not the persona, not the mask, but the consciousness behind it. So let me ask you a question that could change your life. Who are you when you stop trying to be anyone? Really, sit with that. Forget your career, forget your past, forget your goals. In the silence, in the space between your thoughts, what's there? See, the ego is always trying to survive. It feeds on problems. It needs something to fix, something to fear, something to chase. But you don't. You're already whole, already free. The problem isn't that you're broken. The problem is that you've forgotten what you are. You are not a wave struggling against the ocean. You are the ocean, temporarily appearing as a wave. And once you remember that, the panic subsides. The need to prove, to fight, to fix begins to dissolve. Because you're not separate. You never were. You just believed you were. The cosmic game. Why life isn't serious, but it's still sacred. Let's take a breath together. Not just a breath to relax, but a breath to remember. To remember that this entire thing we call life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Alan Watts often said that life is not a journey with a destination, but a dance. Just like music, we don't listen to a song to get to the final note. We listen because of how it moves us, how it unfolds, how it plays with silence and sound. So why do we treat life like a race to be won, a ladder to climb, a test to pass? Here's the truth that changes everything. Life is a game. Not in the dismissive or shallow sense, but in the most sacred cosmic way possible. A divine play, what the Hindus call Leela, the infinite playing with itself through this incredible dream of form. You, me, this moment, it's all a part of that play. And the moment you realize you're not just a pawn in the game, but the player and the board and the game itself, something profound shifts. You stop taking it all so seriously, and yet, paradoxically, you begin to treat it with more reverence. Think about a child playing. They take the game seriously while they're in it. They scream, cry, laugh, build, destroy, but they know deep down it's a game. They're immersed, yes, but not trapped. That's what we've forgotten. We've become so entangled in the performance, so identified with the roles, that we think the drama is all there is. But Watts reminds us, we're not just actors, we're the playwright too. And when you remember that, problems aren't so much problems as they are plot twists. You can still feel pain, confusion, even heartbreak, but you stop adding that extra layer of suffering that comes from believing this must not be happening. You see, seriousness is the great disease of our age. We take our careers, our politics, our identities, our opinions with such rigid gravity that we forget to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Life is absurd. It's hilarious, it's tragic, it's beautiful, but above all, it's impermanent. And that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Because it's what makes the dance real. If it were fixed, it wouldn't be alive. If it were predictable, it wouldn't be art. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine you could control your life completely. Every outcome, every moment. You'd only feel pleasure. You'd only succeed. You'd always be praised. Sounds great, right? But give that a week, a month, a year. Eventually, it would bore you to death. You'd start to crave risk, uncertainty, surprise. You'd want the unknown. That's the punchline. That's what this whole thing is. You chose this game. Not the comfort of control, but the magnificence of mystery. And when you start to live from that place, the world opens up. You stop trying to hack life like a machine and start to dance with it like a partner. You listen, you respond, you fall out of step and then back in. It becomes alive again. Sacred, not because you control it, but because you participate in it fully. Alan Watts used to say, "To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float." That's the paradox. When you stop trying to control everything, life begins to carry you. Not passively, but in harmony, with attention, with presence. So let me ask you a wild question. What if nothing is actually wrong? What if everything that's happening, every twist, every fall, every joy, every loss, is part of a larger intelligence, a dance too complex for the mind to grasp, but perfect in its unfolding? Can you surrender, not in defeat, but in trust? This isn't about apathy. It's about engagement without attachment. It's about playing fully, loving deeply, showing up completely, without losing the awareness that it's all temporary, all flowing, all in motion. That's what makes it sacred. Not that it lasts forever, but that it happens at all. You are not here to win life, you're here to experience it, to taste it, to wonder at it, to fall into it, and yes, to forget, but also to remember over and over again. The final realization, how letting go gives you everything you were chasing. Here we are, at the edge of the cliff, so to speak. You've followed this path through the illusion of problems, through the myth of the separate self, and into the sacred absurdity of the cosmic game. Now comes the final realization, the one that flips everything on its head. Letting go is the only way to truly have. Not in the material sense, not in the way we grasp for things, but in the sense of being in such deep alignment with life that you no longer need to hold on at all, because you are life. Alan Watts said something that sounds like a riddle, but is actually the deepest kind of truth. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. We spend so much of our lives trying to fix ourselves, improve ourselves, heal ourselves, assuming that who we are right now isn't good enough. But have you ever stopped and asked, who told me I need to become anything? What if all this striving is the very thing clouding the peace that was always available underneath? Letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means giving in. To the flow, to the present, to the truth that trying to control life is like trying to hold onto a river. The more you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hands, it flows with you. Ironically, the things you've been chasing, peace, joy, love, meaning, they begin to show up when you stop chasing, because they were never out there. They were always in the letting go. And that's the kicker, isn't it? We're so afraid of surrender because we think it means loss. But what if surrender is actually the path to wholeness? What if the moment you stop trying to be someone, do something, fix everything, that's when life rushes in and fills you up completely? Not with what your ego wants, but with what your soul has been longing for all along. So now I ask you, what are you still holding on to? Is it a belief about who you need to be? A fear about what might happen if you stop pretending? What if you dropped it just for a moment and allowed yourself to be? Not as an idea, as an experience. Right now, in this breath, you're not broken, you're not behind, you're not missing anything. You are the dance, the dreamer, the wave, the ocean. And the moment you let go of trying to become more, you become whole. Remember, life isn't waiting for you to figure it out. It's inviting you to join in, fully, wildly, honestly. No more masks, no more strategies, just you as you are. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Let go and see what was always there